Hello, friends, and welcome back to Elaborations with SchellingtonGrin, the podcast where we uncover the nuances of spirituality and dive into a multitude of topics ranging from talks on tarot, healing, and so much more. If you are new here, my name is Ava, and I am your gothic witch big sis, here to help you on this journey. And look, I know it's the weekend. I know we're wanting to just relax and kind of take the edge off. But today I want to share something that's been really heavy on my heart, but also really freeing to explore. And today, for this Friday episode, we are going to be talking about forgiveness, healing, and what it means to recalibrate yourself after leaving an abusive relationship. Now, before I go any further, I want to ease your worries. I am not here to sensationalize my story or make this a trauma dump episode. In fact, I have realized over the past few months that healing out loud does not mean that I have to reopen every painful chapter and keep turning the page back to loop the story. But what I do want to share are some of the truths and some of the lessons that I have found along the way. And this is going to be a bit of a layered episode because it took going through this abusive relationship and leaving this abusive relationship and healing over the past 16 months from it to learn all of these different truths that helped me to stop looping the old stories and start living the new ones. It has been, as I said, 16 months since I walked away from my last abusive relationship. And honestly, in so many ways, I am still healing. I am still recalibrating my nervous system every single day. I am still learning what new love feels like in a healthy form with my partner. And I am still unlearning all of the patterns that no longer serve me. And I want to remind you before we dive in that healing is not a finish line. It is an intentional practice that sometimes requires you to have radical acceptance and radical accountability. Without further ado, let's dive right in. So part 1, what abuse does to the nervous system. And I have said this before in other episodes that I am not a neuroscientist or a therapist, but I can tell you what I have lived through and what I have observed by working with friends and clients who have come to me for psychic services and who have told me about different patterns going on in their lives. And also what I know from educating myself along my journey. The thing about abuse is that it rewires you. It seeps into your nervous system and into your brain in ways that take time to undo. And in my relationship, I was constantly put down. If I made a healthy choice with food, I was mocked. If I made an unhealthy food choice, I was mocked. If I decided to do anything, I would feel like either way I couldn't win. Whether I was more available or less available because of my job in school, or I was making concessions for people, it's like I was in this constant loop of I can't win either way. And after a while, my body stopped trying. My nervous system learned that no matter what I did, I would be shamed or controlled or gaslit or whatever. And what happens is that this kind of wiring from experiencing all of this doesn't just flip the moment you leave. It's not like a light switch where you can just turn it off and the lights are off. Because even after I walked away, I carried the echoes, the guilt, the second guessing, the sense that maybe I couldn't trust myself to make the right choices, And I also carried with me this idea that I wanted things to change and that initially I wanted him back. And healing, and even initially wanting that person back, is so nuanced. And when you finally take off the rose-colored glasses and you allow yourself to really, truly step away, healing is not just about not being with that abuser anymore. It is about teaching your nervous system new rhythms of safety, both in isolation and in relationships. And it is about proving to yourself day by day that you are free now and you are allowed to choose differently and to take up space. And that was something that was initially very difficult for me to get to a point where I was comfortable with that. Being able to take up space, being able to have agency with myself again, and even having agency in my own home again. But once I was able to really continuously and consistently work on that, I was able to free myself. Part number 2, the 4 gates of forgiveness. Recently, I came across a video that shared the idea that there are 4 kinds of forgiveness that you have to face if you really want to move forward from anything in your life. Forgiving your parents for the lessons and blessings and even the hardships that you faced with them. Forgiving your past lovers. Forgiving others who hurt you. And forgiving yourself. So let's walk through each gate right now because I have stood at all 4. The gate of your parents. For years, I blamed my parents. I blamed my parents, and especially my mom, for pushing me into paths that I either didn't want or didn't understand why they were so necessary. Whether it was the path to go to college and then being told that I should choose a different degree path than the one that I originally wanted, which when I got to college, I initially wanted to go for psychology, but then I wound up going for English literature instead. Or there were other choices that just didn't feel like they were truly mine. And for me, that really did hurt a lot. And there were certain ways in which I felt kind of like my choices and opinions were second to whatever my mom wanted or whatever my parents wanted. And there was always this like back and forth between me and them, especially when I was younger, especially between my later teenage years and my early adult years in my early 20s. But when I really look back and I think about everything and I think about my relationship with my mom and then the relationship that I have with my stepdad who came into our lives when I was a teenager, I see how much good came with my childhood, my teenagehood, my early adulthood, and it includes a lot of piano lessons, dance lessons, choir trips, traveling to different states to be able to do different things like going to Universal Orlando, and even traveling to England for a summer when we first met my dad's family, my stepdad's family, because my stepdad's from England. And another thing that I really do enjoy that I was able to enjoy at such a young age, I got to see Wicked twice at the Pantages Theater in Hollywood because we lived in California for a few years. And when I tell people that I got to do that, they were like, wait, what? Yeah, well, I also had season passes to Disneyland while living in California. And I also got to go to Knott's Berry Farm and Medieval Times. And I got to do so many amazing things. And I got to have a lot of fun as a kid and a teenager and even as a young adult. So it's like, By no means is any of this really trying to like brush off what happened, but I can look back and see how much good came with my experiences and see how much that I can still be grateful for, especially now that I am in my early 30s and I feel like I actually do have a healthier relationship with my parents than I used to. But all of that to say that the truth is complicated. My parents made mistakes, but they also gave me very beautiful experiences. Whether my mom was a single parent or when she got remarried, I have had so many amazing experiences. And I have done so many amazing things that other kids my age did not get to do. But forgiveness here looks like holding both truths. Honoring the stuff that was mistakes, honoring the stuff that was a little bit sad or heartbreaking or made me feel like I wasn't fully supported, but also being grateful for the good stuff and being able to make the choice now to have a healthier relationship with them, forgive them, and move forward. We're not moving on. We're not excusing anything. We're moving forward. And that is a complete and total tonal shift. Gate number 2, the gate of past lovers. I have been in relationships, both long-term and short-term, that have taught me exactly what love isn't. And while it is very tempting to stay bitter and to say that they wasted my time, it is more rewarding to recognize that each one of those relationships showed me something, whether it was a lesson, a blessing, or both wrapped into one. I learned that, obviously, sex isn't love, and that you can have a really good attraction to somebody and have really good chemistry, but then you can get behind closed doors and you can have the worst sex possible. I learned that too. I also learned that great chemistry does not equal a healthy partnership or even the basis for a healthy partnership. And I learned that love without respect is just chaos dressed up in pretty words. Another thing that I learned that I will take to my grave is that compatibility isn't just about sameness. It is about being able to be in a collaborative relationship with someone and see the both of you as equals in order to move through circumstances together and have a partnership, not just a relationship where it's one person versus the other. It is a relationship where it is you against the circumstances. It is a relationship where it is you against the world, pretty much. And I know that sounds very cliche, but when it is a relationship where both of you are actually in partnership, it is a lot healthier than those relationships where it's you versus me and then where is the us, you know? So, I have learned so much through those relationships, and I have forgiven those relationships not by excusing them, but by taking the lessons and moving forward. Not moving on, not excusing, and not even reconciling, but moving forward. That brings us to gate number 3, forgiveness of others. I have had to work through forgiveness for friends who ghosted me, drifted away, or betrayed my trust. And going through friendship breakups is a special kind of heartbreak because that was someone that you really trusted. That was someone that you could stay up late night and watch movies with, pop popcorn, or even talk about the things that were making you sad, you know? And you trusted them with so much of yourself. But even there, I can look back and remember things such as slumber parties, music we listened to, inside jokes, movies we saw, times that we spent running amok through Spirit Halloween, you know, like all of these different things that I can still be grateful for whether or not I'm reconciling with these people and whether or not I am choosing to just tolerate their behavior. Because again, forgiveness isn't always about reconciling. Sometimes it just means letting the good memories stay good and not poisoning them with resentment. It means sometimes allowing that person to just be who they are and accepting that they are who they are now and moving forward and saying, I'm happy for the memories that I got to share with you, even if I will never share any more again. And gate number 4, and probably the hardest one to really work through, is forgiveness of yourself. This one feels like Mount Everest, okay? And I'm sure many other people can relate to this. I have had to forgive myself for people-pleasing behaviors, for ignoring red flags, and for letting myself stay in relationships and friendships that broke me down or made me feel like I had to mold myself into something that I wasn't. I had to forgive myself for money mistakes, for late blooming, for not having it all figured out by 30, because newsflash, not everyone is going to have everything all figured out by 30. Some of us don't even have everything figured out by 25. And I think we're putting a lot of pressure on ourselves as this generation of millennials. But the breakthrough that I found and that I'm still working through is that self-forgiveness isn't about pretending that I didn't F up. It is about saying that I forgive the version of me that didn't know better, and I trust the version of me that I am becoming. And feel free to take that as an affirmation for yourself. I forgive the version of me that didn't know better, and I trust the version of me that I am becoming. Part number 3, healing alone versus healing in relationships. I'm going to act like a little bit of a myth buster for a moment. But there is this idea circulating in the spiritual community and in other healing communities that you have to be fully healed before you get into a relationship again. And I'm about to call BS on that, because if that were true, so many of us would die single. And while it's okay to feel like your best self single and to know that you would rather be single than be in relationships, not because of anything like, oh, well, a relationship's going to mean letting go of my freedom, or a relationship is going to mean that I have to put myself on the back burner, or a relationship is going to come in between me and my career. Like, it's not anything about that. There are just some people out there that actually thrive being single. And then there are other people who actually thrive in relationships. And we can hold those two truths as mutually exclusive without necessarily giving into this false idea that you need to be fully healed before you get into a relationship again. Because healing happens both alone and in connection. And sometimes when you are healing relationship issues, you have to do them in relationships. You're not going to be able to heal trust issues with another person just by yourself alone, by reading self-help books and working on your character and your mindset and your demeanor and your actions alone. Sometimes you actually have to do that in a relationship with another person. And sometimes you'll get into a healthy relationship with a healthier person, and you might still get triggered by things that you remember from your past relationships. But healing happens both alone and in connection. And for me, being with someone new, being with my partner, has been another layer of recalibration. Because my man and I both have our scars. And sometimes we both get triggered by different things from our pasts. But instead of shutting each other down or controlling each other or micromanaging each other, we look at each other and we say, I've got you, you're safe, You're not in that place anymore. And when we do find ourselves getting frustrated, like for example, we recently got frustrated building a standing desk for him in his classroom because he's a teacher. And he got a standing desk because it was a lot easier for him to have something where he could adapt with the fact that he deals with chronic pain. And we got so frustrated building that desk. It took us 7 hours total to build that desk, even with having a lunch break in between. And it was tedious, and we got so frustrated. But in that moment that we got frustrated, we realized we weren't frustrated at each other. We were frustrated at how tedious it was to build this effing desk. But that's another thing that kind of let me understand that conflict, communication, intimacy, and being able to be frustrated not at each other but at the circumstances and being able to move through that together all looks different when you're with someone who meets you with patience instead of punishment. And it is so healing to be in a relationship with someone who is willing to see you and see all of the layers and the nuances and the multiple facets of who you are. And they're able to say, I got you. I'm here. I want this. I want you in your messiest form. I want you in your tidiest form. I want you when you're groggy and haven't had a cup of coffee yet and you feel sluggish, and then you have your cup of coffee and it's like you're bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. Like, I want all of you. And I'm here to show up and meet you with patience and grace instead of punishment. So, as we close out today's episode, where does this leave us? For me, and for many of you listening, it leaves us right here, in the messy, beautiful middle of healing. It leaves us being able to say that we're not over it because, and this is me personally, but you probably believe this as well if you're tuning into this episode, healing isn't something that you're meant to check off of a checklist. But it also leaves us, at the end of today's episode, feeling freer than we were. And that is because of forgiveness. And to summarize, forgiveness does not mean reconciliation. It doesn't mean saying what happened was okay. Forgiveness means loosening the grip of the old stories so that we can write new ones. And if you're listening to this episode, maybe that is exactly what you needed to hear. Forgiveness does not mean reconciliation or pretending that what happened to you was okay. Instead, it means loosening the grip of the old stories so that we can write new ones. And before we close out, let's end with the little trio that we do in several episodes now. Our affirmation, our journal prompt, and our challenge for the week. Our affirmation: I am free to forgive, free to grow, and free to choose love again. I am free to forgive, free to grow, and free to choose love again. Our journal prompt: which of the 4 gates of forgiveness feels the hardest for me right now, and why? Which of the 4 gates of forgiveness feels the hardest for me right now, and why? And if you need a little bit of a refresher on what those 4 gates are, it is forgiveness of your parents, forgiveness of past lovers, forgiveness of others who have hurt you, and forgiveness of yourself. And the challenge I want to leave with you is, whether it's this weekend or this week, I want you to try one act of nervous system recalibration. Maybe it's taking a mindful walk. Maybe it's sitting down and telling someone you trust how you're feeling. Or maybe it is simply noticing when your body relaxes into safety. because all of these things help you to teach your nervous system a new rhythm that can help you to move forward into the next phase of your life. That is where I will leave you today. I hope you have an amazing weekend. I know I'm going to, because I am going to a state park with my boyfriend on Sunday, and we are going to be out in nature for a little bit because we have the perfect weather for it here in September in Louisiana. Because if you have ever visited Louisiana during the summer and the fall, or you live in Louisiana, you know just how hot it can get during the summer, and no one wants to go to a state park in the middle of the blazing heat. And it has been getting hotter year by year. But we are going to be doing that on Sunday, and I am looking forward to it. I am so excited to actually get to go to a state park with my partner and be out in a little bit of nature, maybe get a little dirty by playing in some dirt and, just enjoying my life and enjoying the beautiful sunshine and the fact that we have cooler weather. And as always, thank you for holding this space with me and for tuning into this podcast. And remember, you are not behind, you are not broken, you are becoming. This has been another enlightening and elaborative episode of Elaborations with SchellingtonGrin. If you would like to connect with me and see all of the other projects that I am working on, you can head over to the description box and click the link to my Linktree, where you will find the link to my Instagram and so many other things that are going on with SchellingtonGrin. I will see you guys again next week. Take care and love yourself.